At my birthday party, my daughter stepped out of a taxi. I was standing on the porch of the Anchor, a seaside restaurant I'd helped renovate 3 years ago, watching the salt wind push the fog back toward the harbor. 55 years old today, half a century plus 5. The kind of birthday where you start counting what you've built and what you've lost. The kind where you feel the weight of every year, every mistake, every small, quiet victory no one ever noticed. The ocean always made me reflective, but that night it felt like it was waiting, like it knew something I didn't. Naomi climbed out of the back seat wearing a cream dress I'd never seen before, a soft, expensive-looking thing that didn't match the tired slump of her shoulders or the way her eyes didn't meet mine. Her hair was pulled back tight, too tight, the way people do when they want to keep themselves from falling apart. Behind her came Trent, her husband of 2 years, checking his phone as he walked, thumb tapping rapidly, that little half-smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. He didn't look up. Not at her, not at me, not at the restaurant full of people waiting to celebrate. I walked down the steps to meet them, feeling the grit of sand on the old wooden boards I'd repaired myself. The wind carried the smell of shrimp, garlic, and wet rope from the harbor. My guests were inside, laughing, clinking glasses, waiting for me to bring my daughter in so the night could properly begin. "Hey, baby," I said, forcing warmth into my voice. "Why'd you come by taxi? What happened to the Bentley I gave you?" Trent looked up then. His face split into a grin that made my stomach turn cold. Sharp, triumphant, a grin made to cut. He tucked his phone into his pocket like he had all the time in the world. "I gave it to my mother," he said. "She actually appreciates fine things." The words hung in the air like smoke, thin, toxic, drifting into every corner of the moment. Around us, people from the party had stepped outside. My crew chief Danny, still in his work boots, my accountant, Rita, holding a plate of appetizers, a few neighbors who'd known Naomi since she was in pigtails. They'd all heard it. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting to see what I'd do, waiting to see if the father everyone respected would let himself be humiliated on his own birthday. Naomi wouldn't look at me. She stared at the ground, her hands folded over her purse like she was bracing for impact. Her wedding ring glinted under the restaurant's outdoor lights, and for a second I wondered if she had ever taken it off, not even once, to remind herself there was a life she had chosen, for better or worse. "Your mother," I repeated, my voice flatter than I intended. "Lorraine needed a reliable car," Trent said. He put his hand on Naomi's lower back, proprietary, like displaying a prize. Naomi stiffened, but she didn't shake him off. "The Bentley suits her lifestyle better. Naomi doesn't really need something that flashy. She's more practical now." "That car was a gift," I said quietly. "To my daughter. And she's allowed to do what she wants with her gifts, Gordon." Trent smiled wider, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be. The boy who had come to my house years ago pretending to be humble and grateful for Naomi. That boy was gone. "She's a grown woman." I felt the heat rise in my chest, slow and controlled, the kind that comes before storms. This was bait. Trent wanted me to explode, to make a scene in front of everyone. He wanted the story of the night to be Gordon lost control, not Trent humiliated his wife and father-in-law. Instead, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and typed a quick message. I didn't look at the screen. I knew the number by heart. I hit send. "Sure," I said. "Happy birthday to me." I turned and walked back up the steps. Behind me, I heard Naomi whisper something urgent to Trent. Something small, tight, afraid. But he laughed it off. They followed me inside, their footsteps uneven against the old boards. The party went exactly as I expected after that. Trent held court near the bar, telling stories about his dealership, about the high-net-worth clients he worked with. He name-dropped brands I didn't care about, spoke loudly, performed confidence like it was a magic trick he practiced daily. People listened because they didn't know what else to do. They smiled because they weren't sure if not smiling would get them pulled into some fight they didn't want to be part of. Naomi sat next to him, nodding when he touched her arm, laughing at the right moments. But her eyes kept darting across the room, searching for something, maybe an escape, maybe an apology she could never say out loud. She looked older than 27 in that moment. Older than the girl who used to come home covered in sawdust because she'd insisted on helping me build her treehouse. I watched her from across the room, my daughter, the one who used to climb onto my shoulders and demand I take her to the ocean so she could hear it breathing. The one who used to sit in my workshop handing me tools, asking 1,000 questions about how things were built, how things stayed together. Now she sat next to a man who'd given away her car and pretended it was normal, pretended she agreed, pretended she had no voice of her own. Danny came up beside me with a beer, his expression a careful mix of concern and, I'm trying not to get involved, but I kind of already am. That was rough, he said. Yeah. You okay? No. He nodded once, no questions, no pity, just understanding. He clinked his bottle against mine. Let me know if you need anything. I will. He walked off to talk to Rita, leaving me with my thoughts, my beer, and the slow realization that something fundamental had shifted inside me the moment Trent said, "You won't be needed much longer." I'd been holding on to patience for years, quiet, steady patience. But patience rots when tested too long. The cake came out. Everyone sang. I blew out the candles and made a wish I knew wouldn't come true, not because wishes were fairy tales, but because what I wanted wasn't something the universe gave. It was something a man had to take. Naomi hugged me briefly, her body stiff, her scent different than I remembered. She whispered, "I'm sorry." But the words felt flimsy, like tissue paper dissolving in water. Maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she no longer knew what she meant at all. Trent leaned in as they were leaving, close enough that only I could hear, his breath warm and sour with expensive whiskey. "You won't be needed much longer, Gordon," he said softly. "Just so you know." Then he straightened, clapped me on the shoulder like we were old friends, and walked out with my daughter on his arm. She didn't look back. Not once. I stood there for a long time after they left, the party slowly unwinding around me. Laughter faded, chairs scraped, guests said their polite goodbyes and slipped out into the fog. Rita helped clean up, chattering about next quarter's projections, about tax season coming up, about little things that normally kept my mind occupied. But I wasn't listening. My thoughts were elsewhere, on the message I'd sent earlier, on Trent's smile, on Naomi's downcast eyes, on the Bentley, now in the hands of a woman who'd never spoken a kind word to me. Eventually, the restaurant emptied out. Danny locked the back door. I turned out the lights. That night, I sat in my truck in the driveway and stared at my house. It was a good house. I'd built it myself, back when Naomi's mother was still alive, back when the sound of laughter in the kitchen made the whole place feel warm. Every beam, every joint, every window carved into place by my hands. It was solid. It would outlast me. It would outlast the cracks forming in the rest of my life. I pulled out a notebook from the glove compartment. The leather was worn, edges soft from years of being opened and closed during quiet moments. Moments when building something wasn't about wood or nails, but about decisions. I opened to a blank page. I wrote one sentence. "They want a villain." I stared at it for a long time. The night pressed in around me, thick and waiting. Somewhere down the street a dog barked. A buoy clanged in the distance. The fog rolled across the harbor like a living thing. Then I closed the notebook, set it on the passenger seat, and went inside. The house creaked softly as I walked through it, greeting me like an old friend. I paused in the hallway, looking at the framed photos on the wall, Naomi at 7 with missing teeth, her first school play, her graduation, the last picture of the three of us before her mother passed. All of it was a world Trent would never understand. I reached out, touched the frame of the graduation photo, and felt something settle inside me. Not anger, exactly, but clarity. A quiet, steady understanding of what came next. Some people choose their paths. Some people force you onto them. And some people forget that even the quietest man knows how to build and dismantle anything. I turned off the hallway light, walked into the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. My reflection in the window looked back at me, older, harder, steadier. "They want a villain," I whispered. "Then they'll get one." Before we go any further, hit the hype button, take a second to subscribe, and like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And tell us in the comments, what would you do in this situation? The signs started small. A week after my birthday, Naomi called me old-fashioned during a Sunday dinner I'd hosted. We were talking about the cottage I'd renovated for her and Trent, the one by the cove with the big windows facing the water. I'd spent 6 months on it. New electrical, new plumbing, refinished floors. I'd done most of the work myself. "We're not sure we want to live there," Naomi said, pushing her food around her plate. "We're not sure we want to live there," I repeated. "Why not?" It's not really our style." "Your style," I said. Trent jumped in. "What Naomi means is that we're looking at other options. My mother has a beautiful property closer to town, more modern, better school district for when we start a family." "I built that cottage for you," I said, looking at Naomi. "You told me you loved it." "I did love it," she said quickly. Things change, Dad. We have to think about the future." "The future," I said. Trent leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine like we'd wandered into his dining room instead of mine. "Gordon, you have to understand. Naomi and I are building a life together. That means making decisions that work for both of us, not just honoring the past. Honoring the past, I said. Is that what you call it when your daughter stops looking you in the eye? Naomi's face flushed. Dad, that's not fair. What's not fair, I said, is watching you turn into someone I don't recognize. Trent stood up. I think we should go. They left. Naomi didn't hug me goodbye. I stood at the window over the sink while they crossed the driveway, watching the taillights cut through the dark as they pulled away. The cottage key sat in the little ceramic dish by the back door where Naomi used to toss her car keys when she came over for Sunday dinners and movie nights and long talks at this same table. It felt heavier than it had any right to feel. I cleaned up the kitchen slowly, scraping plates, loading the dishwasher, wiping down the counters that still smelled faintly of lemon oil and roasted garlic. The house was quiet in the way that made the old pipes creak louder, the refrigerator hum sound like a complaint. My phone buzzed on the counter, rattling against the wood. A text from Danny. Heard something today. Call me. I stared at it for a second, thumb hovering. Danny didn't text like that unless something was wrong. I called. He picked up on the first ring. Gordon? What is it? One of your clients called, Danny said. The Hendricks project. They said Trent stopped by yesterday, told them you were having financial trouble, said they should consider switching contractors. I closed my eyes. The world narrowed to the sound of Danny breathing on the other end of the line. He said what? He told them you were going broke, that the company was unstable. They called me to verify. I shut it down, but Gordon... This guy's spreading poison? Did they believe him? No. But that's not the point. He's trying. And Hendricks mentioned something else. Said Trent implied you were getting forgetful, making mistakes. I felt my jaw tighten. Forgetful, I repeated. I'm the one who caught the wiring issue in their guest house last week. I know, Danny said. I told them that. But you need to know what's being said. He's not just some idiot running his mouth. He's deliberate. I thanked Danny and hung up. The dishwasher hummed behind me. The kitchen clock ticked loud and steady. I stood there with my phone still in my hand and thought about Trent's smile at my birthday party. About the Bentley he'd said he'd given to his mother because she appreciated fine things. About the cottage I'd built that they didn't want. About my daughter calling me old-fashioned in my own house. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. I made coffee and drank it black at the table, the same chair where Naomi used to sit sideways, legs tucked under her, talking about school projects and crushes and how unfair the world was when she didn't get picked for some team. I could still see her, 19 years old, insisting she would never be one of those people who cared about cars or houses or money. I just want to do something I love, she'd said once, chin tilted stubbornly. I don't care if I'm rich, Dad. I'd believed her. The sky outside was still dark when I grabbed my jacket and headed for the truck. The cold bit through the fabric, sharp and clean, waking me up more than the coffee had. The roads were mostly empty, just a few delivery trucks and the occasional early commuter. I drove to the bank. Inside, the fluorescent lights made everything look flatter, less real. A young teller I didn't recognize greeted me with the professional brightness they all seemed to learn from the same handbook. She directed me to a desk in the back, where a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a polite smile pulled up the information I requested. Naomi's trust fund. It was an account I'd set up when she was born, added to every year. Birthday gifts, leftover bonuses, a portion of the profit from big jobs. I'd never told her the exact number, only that it would be there for her someday. For a house, for grad school, for when she wanted to start her own business. Legally, she controlled it now. I was just a signatory. Able to view, but not withdraw. She'd always known it was there, waiting for her. Could you print the last 6 months of activity? I asked. Of course, Mr. Lewis. She printed the statements and slid them across the desk to me. I thanked her, then took them to one of the small side tables by the window. The paper was warm from the printer. The balance was $30,000 lower than it should have been. There were 3 large withdrawals I didn't recognize. Clean round numbers, each one followed by a transfer notation. Recipient, Wilford Design and Staging, LLC. I felt a slow heat climb up my neck. I went back to the woman at the desk. Can you confirm these transfers for me? Who authorized them? She examined the screen. They were initiated online by the primary account holder. That's Naomi Lewis. Transferred to a business account belonging to... She squinted slightly, then continued. A business account belonging to Lorraine Wilford, Trent's mother. Do you have any details on the business? I asked. My voice sounded strange in my own ears. Steady, but hollow. It's listed as a home staging and interior design company, she said. Is there a problem, Mr. Lewis? I thought about Naomi's face across the table last night, about her calling me old-fashioned, about Trent's wine glass and his easy dismissal of the cottage, about, my mother has a beautiful property closer to town. No, I said. No problem. Thank you. I walked out of the bank into the cold mid-morning air and sat in my truck with the statements spread across the steering wheel. Numbers and dates and reference codes stared back at me. $30,000 to Lorraine's business. Not for an emergency, not for something Naomi needed. An investment, the note said. A partnership agreement on file. My hands shook. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles went white and the leather complained softly under my fingers. Naomi had given her money to Lorraine. Not a loan she'd asked me about. Not something we could talk through together, not even a conversation. She'd just moved the money, to Trent's mother, for a business that, as far as I knew, consisted of overpriced furniture and rented houses, and a website full of stock photos. She's family now, Dad. The words hadn't been spoken yet, but I could hear them forming, ready to be thrown at me like a weapon. I drove without thinking much about where I was going, past the hardware store where I'd bought Naomi her first real set of tools when she moved into her freshman dorm, past the park where I'd taught her to ride a bike and run bases and parallel park, past the old elementary school, now with a shiny new wing Naomi had once helped fundraise for as a teenager. I ended up in front of her apartment building. She lived in town now, in a place with glass balconies and underground parking and a lobby that smelled like expensive cleaning products and fake citrus. Lorraine had recommended the building, she'd told me when she first moved in. It's a great opportunity, Dad, close to everything, and the amenities are amazing. I'd known even then someone else was pulling strings. I parked on the street and went inside. The elevator hummed softly as it carried me up, the numbers lighting up one by one. My reflection in the stainless steel doors looked older than I felt. Lines deeper around my mouth, the gray in my hair more obvious under the fluorescent light. I knocked on Naomi's door. There was a pause, then the faint sound of footsteps. The door opened a crack, then wider. Dad? She said, surprised. She wore leggings and an oversized sweater that looked soft and expensive. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun that probably took longer to arrange than it looked. Can I come in? I asked. She hesitated for half a second, then stepped aside. Sure. The apartment was nice. Too nice for what she made as a social media consultant. Wide windows, high ceilings, sleek furniture that looked like it had never actually been sat on. A bar cart in the corner, stocked with bottles I knew she couldn't pronounce 10 years ago. A framed print of some abstract piece where our old family photo used to hang in her room at home. Trent's at work, she said quickly, as if that mattered. Do you want coffee? Water? I checked your trust, I said. Her face went pale, the color draining out so fast I almost reached out by instinct, ready to steady her. Dad. $30,000, Naomi, I said, to Lorraine's business. She swallowed, then lifted her chin. It's an investment, she said. Her voice was tight, fast. She's expanding. It's a good opportunity. It's your money, I said. Exactly. It's my money. I can do what I want with it. Did Trent tell you to do that? No one told me to do anything, she snapped. I made a choice. A choice, I said, to give your money to his mother. She's family now, Dad. There it was. The phrase, delivered with certainty, as if she'd been rehearsing it somewhere between dinners and shared wine nights at Lorraine's modern house. The words hit me like a fist. She's family now, not me, not the man who had spent nights patching drywall and weekends building her treehouse and years putting a little bit aside for that trust. Lorraine Wilford, a woman who'd smiled at me at the wedding and then spent 2 years whispering poison into my daughter's ear. Naomi, I said quietly, do you even remember who you used to be? She crossed her arms, a defensive shell. I'm the same person I've always been. No, I said. You're not. There was a time when that statement might have opened her up instead of shutting her down. A time when she would have crumpled onto the couch and cried and told me everything that was hurting. But now she just stared back at me with a stranger's eyes. Maybe you just don't know me anymore, she said coldly. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. The elevator ride down felt longer than the one up. The lobby smelled too clean, too artificial, like a hotel where no one ever stayed long enough to leave a mark. Back home, I went straight to the garage. It was my space, the one part of the house Naomi and Trent hadn't tried to modernize or rethink yet. The workbench was scarred from years of projects. Tools hung in neat rows on the pegboard, each in its place. The concrete floor was cold under my boots. I looked at the empty space where Naomi used to park when she visited. The oil stain from her old Honda was still there, a dark, irregular shape like a shadow that had refused to leave with her. Above that spot, On a shelf I'd built out of leftover lumber, there had been a dark blue toolbox. Heavy, solid. A good one, with the full socket set and the sturdy latches. I'd given it to her last Christmas. I noticed it was missing. I walked over to the shelf, ran my hand along the dust line where it had sat. The faint imprint of its rubber feet still marked the wood. I pulled out my phone and called her. She answered after a few rings, her voice flat. "Dad? Where's the toolbox?" I asked. "What?" "The toolbox I gave you. It was in the garage." Silence stretched out between us, thin and sharp. "Trent needed it," she said finally. "He needed it. He's working on a project. He'll bring it back." "Naomi, that was a gift," I said. "A $1,200 gift. And he'll bring it back, Dad." "God, why do you have to make everything so difficult?" She hung up before I could answer. I stood there in the dark garage, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. The smell of oil and sawdust and old wood filled my lungs. Somewhere in the house, the heater kicked on with a low rumble. I felt something inside me break, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet snap, like a dry branch underfoot. A small, final sound that meant the tree would never be the same again. I walked over to the workbench and pulled open the drawer where I kept my old notebooks. Project logs, measurements, sketches of ideas, for things I might build someday. At the bottom of the stack was a plain black notebook, the spine worn white at the edges. The one I'd started after my wife left. For a while, I'd written everything down inside it. Numbers, sure. But also people, names, connections, little observations that didn't fit neatly into a spreadsheet. What people said, what they really meant, who owed who a favor, who could be trusted, who couldn't. I hadn't touched it in years. I pulled it out, flipped past old notes about subcontractors and supply reps and clients who tried to squeeze too much out of a job. Past pages where my handwriting grew tight and jagged as I wrote about lawyers and custody agreements and a small girl clutching a stuffed fox outside a courtroom. I found a clean page. I picked up a pen. "They want a villain," I wrote. "Fine." The words sat there on the paper, stark and simple. I didn't cross them out. Then I turned to the back of the notebook, to a page where a single name had been written years ago and circled 3 times before I'd closed the cover and told myself I was done with that part of my life. Mason Clark, an attorney who specialized in asset protection, contract disputes, and, as he'd once joked over whiskey in a smoky bar, legal ways of making people very, very sorry. We hadn't spoken in 5 years, not since I'd told him I didn't want to become the kind of man who thought like him. He'd laughed, clapped me on the shoulder, and said, "You'll call me when you get tired of losing." I found his number easily. I hadn't deleted it. I stared at it for a long moment, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I sent a message to someone I hadn't spoken to in 5 years. "Need a consultation? It's about family and money." Gordon L. The dots appeared almost immediately, then vanished, then appeared again. Of course he was awake. Men like Mason always were. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a reply. My favorite combination. Tomorrow. 4 p.m. My office. Don't bring sentiment. I sat on the stool by the workbench, the phone heavy in my hand, the open notebook in front of me. Somewhere above my head, in the quiet house Naomi had grown up in, the clock ticked, steady and indifferent. I closed the notebook gently, like putting a lid on something that had finally stopped pretending to be dormant. The next day, I put on my one good blazer and a shirt without paint on the sleeves. I shaved, not because Mason cared what I looked like, but because I needed to see someone in the mirror who looked capable of what I was about to do. Mason's office was downtown, in a building with polished stone floors and walls of glass. The receptionist greeted me by name before I introduced myself, which told me he'd seen my text and given instructions. That was how he operated. "Mr. Clark will see you now," she said, gesturing toward a door with his name etched in frosted glass. I walked in. Mason looked almost exactly as he had 5 years ago. Late 40s, hair cut short, suit dark and perfectly tailored. His tie was loosened like he'd already put in 12 hours and liked it that way. He stood when I entered, smiling like we'd had lunch last week. "Gordon," he said, crossing the room and gripping my hand firmly. "It's been too long." 5 years, I said. "Too long," he repeated, releasing my hand and gesturing toward a chair. "Sit. Tell me why you finally decided to join the dark side." I sat, feeling the leather of the chair creak under me. The window behind him looked out over the town, the harbor glinting in the distance, the rooftops of houses I'd driven past 1,000 times. Somewhere out there was Naomi's apartment, and the cottage by the cove, and the Anchor and Lorraine's modern place where my daughter spent holidays now. "I need to protect myself," I said, "and my business. And I need to stop being an easy mark. Mason leaned back, steepling his fingers. Who's bleeding you? My son-in-law, I said. The word tasted sour. And his mother, and my daughter is letting them. He listened without interrupting as I told him about the Bentley, the cottage, the Sunday dinner, the Hendricks project, and the rumors about my health and finances, the trust withdrawals, Lorraine's business, the toolbox. When I finished, Mason was quiet for a long moment. The dinner was Lorraine's idea. A chance to bond, she'd called it. An opportunity for everyone to come together, smooth over tensions, move forward as a family. She was hosting at her house, a sprawling colonial with a 4-car garage and a yard that looked like a magazine spread. I didn't want to go, but Naomi asked me to, and I still couldn't say no to her. Not yet. I arrived at 7. Trent opened the door wearing a polo shirt that probably cost more than my work boots. He shook my hand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Gordon, glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it, I lied. Lorraine descended the stairs like she was making an entrance. She was 51 but looked younger, all sharp angles and expensive highlights. She kissed my cheek and left a lipstick mark. Gordon, darling, so good to see you. Lorraine. Dinner's almost ready. Naomi's in the kitchen helping. I found my daughter arranging appetizers on a tray. She looked up and smiled, but it was thin. Hey, Dad. Hey, baby. How are you? Good. Busy. Lorraine's been teaching me about staging. That right? Yeah. It's actually really interesting. There's a lot of psychology involved. I bet, I said. Dad, we carried the trays out to the dining room. The table was set with china. I'm sure Lorraine mentioned the provenance of multiple times, candles, flowers, the works. Trent poured wine and made a toast to family. I drank and said nothing. The conversation started safe. Weather, town gossip, Lorraine's latest staging project. Then it shifted. Gordon, Naomi tells me you've been resistant to some of their plans, Lorraine said, cutting her salmon with surgical precision. Resistant, I said. The cottage, for instance. I understand you're upset they're not moving in. I'm not upset. I'm disappointed. Well, you have to understand, Gordon. Young couples need to make their own choices. They can't be beholden to their parents' expectations. I renovated that place for her. And it's lovely, I'm sure. But it's not what they want. You have to respect that. I looked at Naomi. She was staring at her plate. I do respect that, I said slowly. What I don't respect is being lied to. I was told she loved the cottage. I was told it was perfect. Then suddenly it's not their style. Trent set down his fork. Gordon, no one lied to you. Then what changed? Naomi's perspective changed. She's allowed to change her mind. Is she? I looked at my daughter again. Or did someone change it for her? Lorraine laughed, a light, dismissive sound. Gordon, you can't be serious. You think we're controlling Naomi? I think you have opinions, and I think Trent makes sure Naomi hears them. Dad, Naomi said quietly. What? I turned to her. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you came to these decisions on your own. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Trent stood up. I think you should leave. I think I should too, I said, pushing back my chair. But before I could go, Lorraine leaned forward with a smile that was all teeth. Oh, Gordon, before you go, I've been meaning to ask, how is the business? I've heard some concerning things. Concerning things, I repeated. Just whispers. You know how small towns are. People say you're overextended, that you're struggling to keep up with projects. I hope it's not true. It's not true? Well, that's a relief, because Naomi mentioned taking your name off some of those business contracts you gifted her. We wouldn't want her tied to anything unstable. The room went silent. I looked at Naomi. Is that true? She wouldn't look at me. Naomi. It's just a precaution, Dad. Lorraine said, I interrupted. Not you. Lorraine. Gordon, don't be dramatic, Lorraine said. We're simply protecting her interests. Protecting her from what? From me? No one answered. I walked out, got in my truck, drove home. That night, I went into the garage and found more missing. A circular saw, a nail gun, a level, all things Naomi had taken without asking. For Trent, for Lorraine, for people who weren't me. I pulled out my phone and made a call. It's me, I said. I need you to find something out. What? Everything about Trent Wilford. Business, finances, connections, everything. That'll take time. I've got time. I didn't see Naomi for 3 weeks. She didn't call, didn't text. It was like I'd been erased. Then Danny came to me with information. Trent's been going to a storage unit, he said. Out past the old mill district. Goes there twice a week. Always alone. How do you know this? I've got a guy who works the gate. He recognized the name when I asked. What's he storing? No idea, but he's paying cash. I thought about that. Then I thanked Danny and drove to the storage facility. It was one of those places on the edge of town, all rusted metal and peeling paint. I parked down the road and waited. Trent showed up an hour later in a silver Audi I didn't recognize. He punched a code into the gate and drove through. I followed on foot, staying out of sight behind the rows of units. He stopped at Unit 217, pulled out a key, opened the door. I waited until he was inside, then moved closer. Through the gap under the door, I could see boxes, papers, a laptop. Trent was on the phone, his voice low and urgent. No, I told you, the trust is accessible. She signed the papers. We just need to wait another month. I felt my chest tighten. Lorraine's handling it. She's got her convinced it's for a business loan. Once we leverage that, we'll have access to the full amount. I stepped back, pulled out my phone, started recording. Gordon's out of the picture. She doesn't even talk to him anymore. It's perfect. I stopped recording. My hands were shaking. Trent came out a few minutes later. I stepped around the corner of the unit. He saw me. His face went white. Gordon, what are you doing here, Trent? That's none of your business. It is when it involves my daughter. He stepped closer. Your daughter is my wife. What we do is between us. Not when you're stealing from her. I'm not stealing anything. She gave me access, willingly. Because you manipulated her. Trent laughed. Manipulated. That's rich. Coming from you. The guy who built her a cottage she didn't want. Who throws money at her and expects gratitude. You're a control freak, Gordon, and she's finally free of you. I moved before I thought about it. Grabbed his shirt, slammed him back against the unit door. Free of me? I said. I gave her everything, and you took it. Get your hands off me. Or what? He shoved me, hard. I stumbled back. He swung, caught me in the jaw. Pain exploded through my face. I grabbed him again, spun him around, pinned him against the car. He struggled, but I was stronger. I'd spent 30 years hauling lumber and swinging hammers. He spent his days sitting in an air-conditioned dealership. You're going to leave her alone, I said. You're insane. I'm protective. There's a difference. Gordon. I turned. Naomi was standing at the end of the row, her face pale. Dad, what are you doing? I let Trent go. He straightened his shirt, breathing hard. What am I doing? I said. Naomi, do you know what he's been planning? He's been harassing us, Trent said. Following me, threatening me. That's not true. Then why are you here, Dad? Naomi's voice cracked. Why can't you just leave us alone? Because he's using you. Stop it. Naomi, Stop it, she screamed. You're toxic, Dad. You've always been toxic. You smother people. You control people. I can't do this anymore. Baby, stay out of our life. She took Trent's hand. They walked away together. She didn't look back. I stood there in the storage lot, my jaw throbbing, and felt the last piece of my heart turn cold. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and opened my notebook. They want a villain. Fine. I turned the page and wrote one word. War. Then I sent a message to the person I'd been talking to, the one who'd been digging into Trent's background. I need everything, now. The response came 2 minutes later. You're not going to like it. Send it anyway. The information came in a thick envelope delivered to my door the next morning. I sat at my kitchen table and read through it slowly, methodically, the way I read blueprints. Trent Wilford, 29 years old, manager at Prestige Motors, a luxury dealership downtown. But that wasn't the whole story. The whole story was buried in bank statements, credit reports, and loan applications. He was drowning in debt. Credit cards maxed out. A car loan he'd defaulted on twice. A business loan from a private lender with a 15% interest rate. He owed more than he made in a year. And then there was Naomi's trust. The papers showed it clearly. 3 withdrawals, all signed by Naomi. But the signatures looked rushed. Shaky. Not like her careful, precise handwriting. I held one up to the light and felt my stomach turn. The date on one of them was from a day I knew she'd been out of town. A conference in Boston. She'd posted about it on social media. She hadn't signed these. Or if she hadn't known what she was signing. I kept reading. Lorraine's staging business was legitimate, but it was also bleeding money. She'd taken out 2 mortgages on her house in the past year. Borrowed from friends. She was in worse shape than Trent. They were both desperate. and they'd found a solution in my daughter. I called the investigator. How sure are you about this? Completely. They're planning to use the trust as collateral for a larger loan. Once that's in place, they'll drain it. She'll be left with nothing. And she doesn't know? If she does, she's in denial. More likely, they've been feeding her stories about investments and business opportunities, keeping her confused. How long do I have? A month, maybe less. They've already got meetings scheduled with investors. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat there for a long time, staring at the papers spread across my table. I thought about Naomi as a little girl, holding my hand as we walked along the beach. I thought about her at 16, crying on my shoulder after her first heartbreak. I thought about her at her wedding, smiling in her white dress, looking at Trent like he was the answer to everything. She'd been wrong, and I'd known it. But I'd said nothing because I'd thought she'd figure it out herself. I'd thought love would be enough. I'd been wrong, too. My phone buzzed. A text from Danny. Heard from a friend. Trent's been bragging at the bar. Says he's going to be rich soon. Says his wife finally came through. I wrote back, thanks. Then I opened my contacts and found a number I hadn't used in a decade. A real estate agent I'd worked with years ago. A guy who specialized in industrial properties. Gordon Hale, he said when he answered. Didn't think I'd hear from you again? I need a property, I said. What kind? Something big, isolated, old. Like a warehouse? Something like that. He thought for a moment. There's the old paper mill, out past the harbor. It's been sitting empty for years. Owner's been trying to unload it. Can you set up a viewing? Sure. When? Tomorrow. I drove out to see it the next afternoon. The mill sat on the edge of town, a sprawling brick complex surrounded by rusted fencing and overgrown weeds. The windows were broken, the roof sagged in places. But the bones were good. Solid foundation, thick walls. And it was far enough from everything that no one would notice if something happened out here. I walked through the main hall, my footsteps echoing. The air smelled like rust and rot. Old machinery sat dormant in the corners, covered in dust. There were catwalks above, offices along the sides, and a basement level that ran the length of the building. It was perfect. I called the agent. I'll take it. You sure? It needs a lot of work. I'm sure. I bought it outright. Cash. No one needed to know why. That night I started planning. I drew maps of the mill, marking exits, rooms, access points. I called electricians I trusted and had them restore power to the main floor. I had the gates fixed and the locks changed. I brought in lights, generators, tools. Danny came by one evening and found me in the mill's main hall, setting up. What the hell are you doing, Gordon? Renovating. This place? It's got potential. He looked around, then looked at me. This isn't about renovation. No, I said. It's not. What's it about? I didn't answer. He didn't push. 2 weeks later, the mill was ready. I'd cleaned it up enough to look functional, but left it rough enough to feel intimidating. Industrial lights hung from the ceiling. Emergency exits were marked but blocked with subtle barriers. The catwalks creaked when you walked on them, but they were safe, mostly. I sent Trent an email from an anonymous account. The subject line was simple. Business opportunity. The message read, Heard you're looking for investors. I've got a property that might interest you. Meet me at the old paper mill tomorrow at 8 p.m. Come alone or bring family. Your choice. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. Trent was desperate enough that he'd come. And he did. They showed up just after sunset. All three of them. Trent driving, Lorraine in the passenger seat, Naomi in the back. I watched from a window on the second floor as they pulled up to the gate. Trent got out, looked around, then punched the code I'd sent him into the keypad. The gate swung open. They drove through. I walked downstairs and waited in the main hall. The lights were dim, just enough to see by. Shadows stretched across the floor. The old machines loomed in the corners like sleeping giants. Trent was the first one through the door. He stopped when he saw me. Gordon, what the hell is this? A business opportunity, I said. Like I told you. Lorraine stepped in behind him, her heels clicking on the concrete. This is a joke. No joke. I own this place now. Thought you might want to see it. Thought maybe you'd be interested in investing. Trent's eyes narrowed. Investing in what? This dump? It's got potential, just like Naomi's trust fund. He went still. Naomi came in last, looking nervous. Dad, what's going on? What's going on, I said, is that I'm giving you all a chance to explain yourselves. Explain what? Lorraine said. Gordon, if you dragged us out here for some kind of confrontation. Not a confrontation, a conversation. I walked to the wall and hit a switch. The main lights came on, flooding the hall. They all flinched. "Sit," I said, pointing to 3 chairs I'd set up in the center. "We're not sitting," Trent said. "Then stand, but you're not leaving until we talk." Naomi looked at Trent. "Maybe we should just—" "We're leaving," Trent said. He turned toward the door. I hit another switch. The door's magnetic lock engaged with a heavy clunk. Trent pulled the handle. Nothing. "What the hell, Gordon?" "I said we're going to talk." Lorraine's voice went sharp. "This is illegal. You can't trap us here." "It's my property. You're trespassing." "You invited us." "And now I'm uninviting you, after we talk." Trent pulled out his phone. No signal. I'd made sure of that. "Gordon," Naomi said quietly. "Please, just let us go." "Not yet, baby. Not until you hear what I have to say." I walked to a table I'd set up along the wall and picked up a folder. Opened it. Trent Wilford. $63,000 in credit card debt. Car loan in default. Business loan from a predator lender at 15% interest. And a plan to use my daughter's trust fund to dig yourself out. Trent's face went red. "That's none of your business." "It's absolutely my business." Lorraine Wilford. 2 mortgages. Business failing. Borrowed from 3 friends who are now demanding repayment, and a staging company that's about to fold unless you get an infusion of cash. Lorraine's mouth opened, but nothing came out. "And Naomi?" I looked at my daughter. 3 withdrawals from your trust. $30,000, signed by you. Except you weren't even in the state when one of these was signed. Naomi's face went pale. "What?" "Show her, Trent. Show her the signatures." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to her anymore. She deserves the truth." Naomi turned to Trent. "What is he talking about?" "He's making things up. He's desperate. He's trying to turn you against me." I held up the paper with the forged signature. "Is this your handwriting, Naomi?" She took it, stared at it. Her hands started shaking. "This isn't mine." "No," I said. "It's not." "Trent?" "Naomi, listen to me. Did you forge my signature?" "It's more complicated than that." "Did you?" He didn't answer. Lorraine stepped forward. "Naomi, you have to understand. We were trying to protect you. Gordon's been poisoning you against us for years. We needed to secure your future." "By stealing from me?" Naomi's voice broke. "It's not stealing. It's an investment. We were going to pay you back." "When?" I said. "When were you going to pay her back, Lorraine? Before or after you drained the entire trust?" Lorraine's face twisted. "You sanctimonious bastard. You think you're so much better than us. You think your money makes you righteous. But you're just a bitter old man who can't let go." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'm not a thief." Trent moved toward me. "You need to shut your mouth." "Or what?" He swung. I saw it coming and stepped back. His fist whistled past my face. I grabbed his arm, twisted, and shoved him into the wall. He bounced off and came at me again. This time I didn't dodge. I took the hit, felt it crack against my cheekbone, and then I drove my shoulder into his stomach. We went down hard. Naomi screamed, "Stop it! Both of you, stop!" But Trent wasn't stopping. He clawed at my face, trying to get leverage. I pinned his wrist, drove my knee into his side, and felt him gasp. He rolled, trying to escape. I followed. We crashed into one of the old machines, metal, screeching. "Dad!" I looked up. Naomi was backing toward the door, her face streaked with tears. That's when Trent grabbed a piece of rebar from the ground and swung it at my head. I ducked. The rebar whistled over me and clanged against the machine. Trent swung again. This time I caught his wrist, twisted hard, and he dropped it. The rebar clattered to the floor. "You're done," I said. And then I hit him. Once, hard, in the stomach. He doubled over, gasping. Lorraine screamed something, but I wasn't listening. I was watching Naomi. She was staring at Trent like she'd never seen him before. "Get up," I said to Trent. He did slowly, clutching his stomach. "Now listen very carefully. All of you." I walked to the center of the hall, breathing hard, my knuckles stinging. Trent was hunched over, gasping. Lorraine stood frozen near the door. Naomi had backed up against the wall, her arms wrapped around herself. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to sit down, and you're going to listen. And when I'm done, you're going to make a choice." "Gordon, this is insane," Lorraine said. "You're holding us hostage." "No, I'm giving you a chance to come clean. Sit." They didn't move. I walked to the breaker box on the wall and flipped a switch. The main lights went out, leaving only the dim emergency lights glowing overhead. The hall fell into shadow. "Sit down." Trent lowered himself into one of the chairs, still holding his stomach. Lorraine followed, her face tight with anger. Naomi stayed against the wall. "Baby, you too," I said. "I don't want to sit." "Please." She hesitated, then walked over and sat in the third chair. She wouldn't look at me. I pulled a rolling cart from the corner and wheeled it in front of them. On it was a laptop, a projector, and a small speaker. I plugged everything in and aimed the projector at the wall. "What is this?" Trent said. "Evidence." I hit play. The first video was from a construction site, one of my projects downtown. The camera was mounted on a support beam, angled toward the street. It showed Trent walking up to the site trailer, talking to the foreman. I turned up the volume. "Gordon Hale?" "Yeah, I know him. He's my father-in-law. Listen, I hate to say this, but he's not doing well. Financially, I mean. The company's in trouble. You might want to think about switching contractors before things get worse." Naomi's hand went to her mouth. The next video was from a bar. Security footage. Trent sitting with two men in suits, laughing, holding a beer. She finally signed the papers. Took some convincing, but Lorraine worked her magic. "We'll have access to the full trust in a month. Maybe less, and the best part? Gordon doesn't even know. He's too busy sulking." Lorraine stood up. "Turn that off. Sit down. Turn it off." I didn't. The video kept playing. Trent bragging, laughing, talking about Naomi like she was a mark, like she was a business deal. Naomi started crying. Quiet, shaking sobs. The last video was the worst. It was from Lorraine's house, taken through a window. Audio was muffled, but clear enough. Lorraine and Trent in the kitchen, talking. "Once we drain the trust, we cut him out completely. She won't have a choice. She'll be dependent on us. And Gordon? He'll be alone, just like he deserves. You think he'll fight it? Let him try. We'll paint him as a controlling abuser. He already looks the part." I stopped the video. The hall was silent, except for Naomi's crying. "Naomi," Trent said, his voice cracking. "I can explain." "Explain what?" she said. "Explain how you lied to me, how you used me." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Trent? Tell me. Make me understand." He didn't answer. Lorraine tried. "Naomi, you have to understand. Your father has been trying to control you your entire life. We were trying to free you." "By stealing from me?" Naomi stood up, her voice rising. "By forging my signature? By lying to my face every single day?" "It's more complicated than that." "No, it's not. It's theft. It's fraud. It's betrayal." She turned to me, her face streaked with tears. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you." "It's okay, baby." "It's not okay. I chose them over you. I said horrible things to you." "You were manipulated. That's not your fault." "Yes, it is. I should have seen it. I should have known." I walked over and pulled her into a hug. She collapsed against me, sobbing. I held her tight, stroking her hair the way I used to when she was little. Behind us, Trent stood up. "This isn't over." I looked at him over Naomi's shoulder. "Yes, it is. Ike, you can't prove anything. Those videos won't hold up in court." "I don't need them to hold up in court. I just need them to destroy your reputation, your career, your mother's business. I've already sent copies to everyone who matters, your boss, your investors, your clients. By morning, you'll be finished." His face went white. "And the trust?" I said. "Naomi's already contacted her lawyer. Every withdrawal is being reversed. Every signature is being investigated. You're not getting a dime." "You bastard," Lorraine said. "You self-righteous bastard." "Maybe, but I'm the bastard who wins." I hit the switch again. The main lights came back on. I walked to the door and unlocked it. "Get out." Trent didn't move. "This isn't fair." "Fair?" I laughed. "You stole from my daughter. You manipulated her. You tried to ruin me, and you think I'm being unfair? You don't understand. Get out before I change my mind." Lorraine grabbed Trent's arm and pulled him toward the door. They walked out into the night, their footsteps echoing. Naomi pulled away from me, wiping her face. "What happens now?" "Now? You rebuild." "How?" "One day at a time, like everything else." She nodded, then looked up at me. "The Bentley, can I get it back?" I smiled. "I already did. It's parked at my house." She started crying again, but this time she was laughing too. "You knew this whole time." "I knew enough." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because you weren't ready to hear it. You had to see it yourself." She hugged me again, harder this time. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, baby." We stood there for a long time, holding each other in the empty mill. Outside, I heard Trent's car start and drive away. But we weren't done. Not yet. Because 5 minutes later, headlights appeared at the gate again. Trent was back. I saw the car before I heard it. The same silver Audi, rolling up to the gate slowly, almost hesitant. I pushed Naomi behind me. Stay back. Dad, what's he doing? I don't know, but stay behind me. Trent got out of the car. Alone this time. Lorraine must have stayed in the car or gone home. He walked up to the gate and stopped, staring at the mill like he was trying to decide something. Then he climbed over. He's coming back in, Naomi whispered. I see him. I walked to the door and waited. Trent came through slowly, his hands raised like he was surrendering. I'm not here to fight, he said. Then what are you here for? To talk. Just talk. We already talked. No, you talked. You showed your videos. You made your threats. But you didn't let me explain. There's nothing to explain, Trent. You're a thief. You used my daughter. It's over. It's not over, he said, because there's something you don't know. I crossed my arms. What's that? Naomi's pregnant. The words hung in the air like a gunshot. I turned to look at Naomi. Her face had gone pale. Is that true? She nodded slowly. I was going to tell you. I found out last week. And you didn't think to mention it? I didn't know how. Everything was so messed up. I didn't know what to do. I looked back at Trent. So what? You think that changes anything? It changes everything, Gordon. That's my kid, my family. You can hate me all you want, but you can't cut me out. Not completely. Watch me. You can't keep Naomi from me. She's my wife. She's my daughter first. And what are you going to do? Lock her in a tower? Control who she sees and talks to? You'd be no better than you claim I am. I stepped toward him. Don't compare us. You manipulated her. You stole from her. You lied to her every single day. I protected her. By spying on me? By luring us out here and locking us in? That's protection? It's justice. It's obsession. Trent, stop, Naomi said. She stepped forward, her voice shaking. Just stop talking. Naomi, listen to me. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. Work through what? She said. Work through you forging my signature? Work through you planning to drain my trust fund? Work through you laughing about me with your friends? I made mistakes. I know that. But I love you, and I love our baby. You don't love me. You love what I can give you. That's not true. Then why did you do it, Trent? Why did you lie? Why did you let your mother manipulate me? Why did you talk about me like I was a paycheck? He didn't answer. That's what I thought, she said. She turned to me. Dad, I want to go home. Okay, baby. Let's go. But Trent didn't move. He stood there in the middle of the hall, his hands shaking, his face twisted with something I couldn't quite read. Anger, desperation, fear. I'm not letting you take her, he said quietly. You don't have a choice. I do. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a gun. Naomi screamed. I stepped in front of her. Trent, put that down. No, you've taken everything from me. My reputation, my career, my wife. I'm not letting you take anything else. Shooting us won't fix that. Maybe not, but it'll make me feel better. Trent, please, Naomi said. Just put it down. We can talk about this. I'm done talking. He raised the gun, pointed it at me. I didn't move. I kept my eyes on his, trying to read him, trying to figure out if he'd actually pull the trigger. His hand was shaking. His face was wet with tears. He looked like a man who'd run out of options. You think I won't do it? He said. I think you're scared. Damn right I'm scared. You've ruined my life. You ruined your own life. I just exposed it. He took a step closer. The gun wavered. You don't understand. I needed that money. I needed Naomi. Without her, I'm nothing. Then you were nothing to begin with. He pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the mill like thunder. But I didn't fall. Naomi didn't scream, because the gun hadn't fired. Trent stared at it, his face blank with shock. He pulled the trigger again. Click. Nothing. It's not loaded, I said. He looked up at me, confusion flashing across his face. What? I knew you'd come back. I knew you'd be desperate. So I had someone break into your car and unload it while you were inside. I told you, Trent, I'm always 3 steps ahead. He dropped the gun and lunged at me. No weapon this time, just rage. He swung wildly, his fists connecting with my shoulder, my ribs. I absorbed the hits and waited. He was sloppy, emotional, predictable. When he swung again, I caught his arm, twisted, and drove him face first into the concrete floor. He hit hard and lay there gasping. Stay down, I said. He didn't. He rolled over, blood streaming from his nose, and tried to get up, I put my boot on his chest and pushed him back down. I said, "Stay down." "Dad!" Naomi grabbed my arm. "Stop, please, he's not worth it." I looked down at Trent, at this man who'd stolen from my daughter, manipulated her, tried to ruin her. He was crying now, full, heaving sobs. "Please," he said. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, just let me go." "Let you go," I repeated. "I'll leave, I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Just don't destroy me, please." I looked at Naomi. She was crying too, but she nodded. "Let him go, Dad." I stepped back. Trent scrambled to his feet, wiping blood from his face. He stumbled toward the door. "Trent," I said. He stopped and turned. "If you ever come near my daughter again, I won't stop next time. Do you understand?" He nodded and ran. The door slammed behind him. The sound of his car starting echoed through the night, then faded into nothing. Naomi collapsed into a chair, her head in her hands. I sat down next to her. "It's over," I said. "Is it?" "Yeah, it is." She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. "What do I do now?" "You heal. You move forward. You raise your baby. I don't know if I can." "You can. You're stronger than you think." She leaned her head on my shoulder. We sat there in the quiet mill, surrounded by the ghosts of old machines and older wounds. "Dad?" "Yeah? Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me." I kissed the top of her head. "Never, baby. Never." We sat there until the sun started to rise, painting the sky outside in shades of orange and red. Then we got up, walked out to my truck, and drove home. But as we pulled away, I saw something in the rearview mirror. Another car, parked at the edge of the property, watching. I didn't say anything to Naomi, but I made a note to check on it later, because something told me this wasn't over. Not yet. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. "Mr. Hale?" "Yeah, who's this?" "My name's Detective Morris. I'm with the state police. I need to ask you some questions about Trent Wilford." My chest tightened. "What about him?" "He's been reported missing. His mother filed a report yesterday. She says the last time anyone saw him, he was going to meet with you." "That's not true. He left my property 3 nights ago, drove away." "Can anyone corroborate that?" "My daughter." "And where is she now?" "At home, resting." "I'm going to need to speak with her, and I'm going to need you to come down to the station." "Am I being accused of something?" "Not yet, but Trent's car was found abandoned near the harbor, and his mother claims you threatened him." "I didn't threaten him. I defended my daughter." "That's what we're trying to figure out, Mr. Hale. Can you come in voluntarily, or do I need to make this official?" I sighed. "I'll come in." I hung up and called Naomi. Told her what was happening. She started crying again. "Dad, this is my fault. I should have—" "It's not your fault, baby. Just tell them the truth. Tell them what happened. We didn't do anything wrong." "Okay. I love you. I love you too." I drove to the police station and spent 4 hours answering questions. They asked about the mill, about the videos, about the confrontation. I told them everything, showed them the evidence I'd collected, the forged signatures, the financial records, the recordings. Detective Morris listened, took notes, and finally leaned back in his chair. "So, you're saying Trent Wilford stole from your daughter, and you confronted him about it?" "That's exactly what I'm saying." "And the gun?" "I unloaded it before he got there. I knew he'd be desperate. I was protecting myself and my daughter." "And you didn't hurt him?" "He tried to hurt me. I defended myself. Then I let him leave." "And you haven't seen him since?" "No." Morris nodded slowly. "All right, Mr. Hale. We'll verify your story with your daughter. But if you're lying—" "I'm not lying." "Then you've got nothing to worry about." I left the station and drove home. Naomi called an hour later. She'd been interviewed too. They'd asked her the same questions. "What did you tell them?" I asked. "The truth. That Trent manipulated me. That you were trying to protect me. That he left on his own." "Good." "Dad, what if they don't believe us?" "They will. We've got proof." "But what if they don't find him? What if something happened to him?" "Then that's on him, not us." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you think he's okay?" "I don't know, baby. And honestly, I don't care." 2 weeks passed. The police kept searching, but they didn't find Trent. His car had been abandoned near the water, but there was no sign of him. No body, no witnesses, nothing. Lorraine gave interview after interview, accusing me of murder, of covering it up. But without evidence, the accusations went nowhere. The videos I'd shown the police painted a clear picture of who Trent really was. A con man, a thief, a manipulator. Public opinion shifted. People started to wonder if Trent had run away, if he'd faked his own disappearance to avoid the consequences of his actions. The investigation stalled, and then, a month later, Trent's body was found. It washed up on the shore 20 miles south of town. The coroner ruled it a drowning. No signs of foul play, alcohol in his system. The theory was that he'd been drinking, stumbled off a pier, and drowned. The case was closed. Lorraine tried to fight it, hired a lawyer, demanded a new investigation, but there was nothing to investigate. Trent had been depressed, desperate, and drunk. He'd made a mistake, and it had cost him his life. I didn't go to the funeral, neither did Naomi. We stayed home and tried to move on, but sometimes, late at night, I think about that car I saw in the rearview mirror, the one parked at the edge of the mill property, watching. I think about the text I sent that night, the one I didn't tell Naomi about. Take care of it. And the response. Already done. I think about the investigator I'd hired, the one who'd been digging into Trent's life, the one who owed me a favor, the one who knew how to make problems disappear. I think about justice and revenge, and the line between them, and I realize I stopped caring about that line a long time ago. Naomi's doing better now. She moved back into the cottage by the cove, the one I built for her. She's 6 months pregnant and glowing. We have dinner every Sunday. She laughs again. She's healing. Lorraine left town, sold her business, disappeared, and me? I'm back to work, building, restoring, creating. But at night, when I'm alone, I sit in my garage and look at the Bentley parked in the driveway. The one I gave my daughter, the one Trent took from her. I got it back. I got everything back. And I'd do it all again. Because that's what fathers do. We protect, we fight, we win, no matter the cost.